By the way, also just want to say, CJ, love the last Let's Talk JMMA. Thought that was one of the best episodes.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and oh shit, we are live. Hey everybody, this is Andrew Benjamin with the We Are Rising podcast. I'm joined by three incredible people with us. First, we got my co-host Jay Christian Gary from Focus Fights.
Hey y'all, how's it going? We here to talk about basically what everybody is wanting to talk about when it comes down to the big fight stories of the week. And also we have my fellow Focus Fights co-contributor JayWolf, and from Kotaku, Charles Jewett, aka CJ. How are y'all both doing?
Excellent. Thank you for having us. This is awesome. Can't wait to talk to you guys.
Thanks for having us.
I thought you were gonna say co-conspirator, Chris. I was like, what are you talking about? What in God's name are you talking about?
Shit. I mean, you would think that I was with a gang or something if I'm talking about co-conspirator.
Well, hopefully you're not with the Yakuza, Chris, which will be kind of on topic for now. I just figured it'd be cool to because we don't really ever. The last time we did something like in terms of breaking Rizin news was when Floyd got announced to face tension, and now like with so much happening with the match and Rizin and Fuji, I think it was like we should try to do something just like talk about it, because I think it'd be interesting to just because it's really like a lot all at once, and it's kind of like I think it's some of it's bad news. I don't think it's world ending and all that. I guess let's first start with Rizin losing its Fuji TV deal, which and also the match, which was going to be on Fuji TV, is not going to be happening there as well, but it'll still be on Bima, and no international stream is announced as of now. So don't ask or even think about that. But JayWolf, I know you were very upset when you saw that news.
Oh my God.
So tell us what was your, I'm gonna do what they do on like Fox News, MSC. Tell us your reaction when you heard that Fuji TV cut Rizin and the match from its coffers.
Just as anger and just thinking, man, here we go again. Just a nightmare scenario all over again. I can't believe this. It was flashbacks to 2006, 2007, when this happened to the greatest mixed martial arts promotion in history, Pride FC. And it was just like, not again, I just couldn't believe it. And I'm just so upset. I'm hoping that it still happens and everything is all right. But I'm so upset at Fuji TV. It's like, dude, they're rewarding an extortionist attempt right now. That's what's happening to Sakakibara-san. Someone is trying to extort him with like a Project Veritas style tape of him talking about Mr. Y and that has somehow slight Yakuza ties or whatever. And it's just, and Fuji TV just rewarded that. And the guy was trying to extort him for $40,000 in US dollars. And, he had to pay that. Now the Fuji TV is going to also just drop him because of it. It's just, I'm just so upset about that. I think Fuji TV made a mistake. Just like Drew, when we were talking earlier before the show about how HBO Boxing made a huge mistake to drop boxing, saying that boxing, isn't all that anymore. But it's still thriving and great right now. And that's hopefully exactly what's going to happen with Epic Rizin. And you know what? It is, because the superior rule set is people know already. The collaboration events this year have already started happening with Bellator and everything. They're going to happen again later on this year. So people know, and it's just, it can't be stopped. So I was just upset at first, but then I'm just like, and we're going to turn this to the bright side too. We're going to say, you know what? Yeah. Sakakibara-san and Epic Rizin is gangster now. It's real gangster, not no pussy UFC shit. It's a superior rule set is some gangster shit.
If you believe some of the rumors, supposedly the Fertitas and UFC have their own ties, but let's not get into
exactly.
that. Let's not,
exactly.
JJ. I'm not
Andrew,
JJ.
The mafia is not real, Andrew. Mafia is not real.
Yeah, well, it's so funny. I'm watching The Offer right now on Paramount, so like the mafia is entirely on my mind since it's about The Godfather and all that. I highly recommend that if anybody needs to watch something. Anyway, CJ, tell us. I mean, when this whole thing was like announced with the Yakuza and the Shubakan post thing, it didn't seem to be getting a lot of, I guess, legitimate attention. I did see like one thing on Yahoo News, but Are you kind of surprised that it kind of opened up? It kind of, I guess, took this long to like finally like just cause like this domino effect to happen.
Well, I was surprised because it came kind of out of left field because as you remember, Fuji TV actually released a statement, which the statement made me kind of nervous when it was released, but the statement was still something to the effect of Fuji TV said, "Oh, well, we're still going to air the match, and we have no future plans to put Rising on the network," which can be interpreted several ways. That just might mean they haven't made any deals yet with Rising, but they made it sound like they were going to go forward and air the match. And then out of left field, is completely out of nowhere almost, they just essentially announced on their Twitter page that they were not going to be airing the match, that they weren't able to come to terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the most shocking because the initial response where if anything bad was going to happen is where everyone kind of expected it to happen. And Fuji TV was kind of like, nope, we don't care. And then it turned out they did care. It was very strange. It's also strange.
Yep.
I would also add that it's extremely different than the situation with Pride. Pride didn't come down because of one newspaper article. Pride came down because of months worth of newspaper articles where they like interviewed direct Yakuza sources that were describing the Yakuza connections and interactions in Pride. Whereas this article was somebody saying, I have an audio recording of Sakakibara who saying he knows Mr. Y, who helps out with Rising, who isn't a Yakuza, but has Yakuza connections. So it seemed very, very different to me.
Do we still know? There's still no confirmation on who Mr. Y is. Is that correct?
I've heard some rumors, but we
don't you have to repeat them here. But I'm
not going to say names.
Yeah,
but
please don't.
I'm not going to say names, but it's out in Japan. There's somebody called, this is a word, not a name, something called a ketsumochi, and that is when you bring someone with Yakuza relationships into your business for the sole purpose of dealing with the Yakuza. So like if the Yakuza starts making problems, this guy can kind of go to them and resolve those differences. And it's kind of funny that JayWolf is wearing a K1 t-shirt because there was a guy back in K1 named Kawamoto who became, I believe, became associated with Crow Cop in his Pride days. I think he was kind of helping him out on the Japanese side. But he originally came into K1 in the late 90s as a Ketsumochi to help them deal with some Yakuza problems they were having. And so it's not that uncommon in the Japanese entertainment industry because sometimes the Yakuza got control. You need a guy to go in there, negotiate, and calm things down.
Chris, what is your thoughts as as a kickboxing fan, as a tension fan, as an MMA fan, as a Rizin fan, as a Pride fan? What is your thoughts on just this whole conglomeration? I know it's not like a repeat of 2007, but like how does it feel that like all these forces have come like seemingly like all at once to perhaps put down the match or put down Rizin or whoever?
Well, first of all, to JayWolf, when it comes down to the whole Project Veritas comparisons, at least you don't have to deal with somebody like Ivory Hecker embarrassing yourself on television just to try and think you got the scoop. But still, though, when it comes down to the whole story that just came out, and I have to be admitting to this, it's kind of like, in a way, when it comes to pro wrestling, it's kind of in the way of the whole Kota Ibushi story with New Japan Pro Wrestling and how he wants out of that promotion until everything came to fruition over the last week with how that story came about. But still, when it comes down to the whole Fuji TV match story, I've got to admit, I was kind of upset just like everybody else as far as that story went because I mean, we all thought, and in some cases, some of us still know that one wrong move from Rizin or Rizin Brass may spell the death knell for future relations with Rizin and Fuji TV. But then again, you have to also realize one thing. We're not dealing with, 2007 technology anymore. We're not dealing, yeah, it's kind of ironic for me to say that because Japanese technology is so far behind, but still, we're not dealing with a 2007 mindset anymore. We're dealing with a 2022 mindset. And I think we discussed this, that Rizin is probably a lot different than what Pride was 15 years ago, as far as now, I guess, not only longevity and popularity, but the fact that they got a product that people actually see as a viable option to, the Bald Father's product in Las Vegas. And y'all know who I mean when I say the Bald Father, but still though, as it refers to the match, I just hope that it'll be seen, if not by us international minds, and that means myself, JayWolf, and Andrew. Sorry, CJ. But still, though, I just hope that it'll be seen for the entirety of the world, not just Japan, because, if you read the post that I think Beyond Kickboxing done well in translating them, but you can tell that Takeru Sagawa wanted an opportunity to be shown to the masses. You can tell that even though Tenshin's kickboxing career is definitely going to be worth talking about for years to come, as opposed to the man's decision of wanting to get into boxing, which we discussed this before we hit record, that he's just going to be facing, South Americans, Mexicans, Thai fighters, and probably a lot of Filipino opponents. And he probably might not get that opportunity to fight in mixed martial arts again, even though, of course, he's undefeated in that too. You can tell that both of those two, Takeru and Tenshin, want to fight in front of the world. And I think that this current decision, by Fuji TV is kind of hindering those chances and hindering the future of the Rizin Fighting Federation. And just to clarify, all you fans that were probably confused on Wednesday, I'm not talking about the match as far as that boring ass golf game that nobody really gave two shits about. I'm talking about the damn kickboxing match that everybody wants to see.
You should have sworn that.
Was there a golf tournament called The Match? Is that what I missed?
No, it wasn't a golf tournament. It was basically a 2-on-2 golf game where two legendary NFL quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, were facing two current NFL quarterbacks and Patrick Mahomes and I think Josh Allen.
That sounds awful. I don't care about that.
No one does. No reasonable person does.
Yeah, of course. No rational person gives a shit about two sets of NFL quarterbacks playing golf.
So I just want to go back and clarify. I think I did say it before, but right now and CJ you can confirm this. The match is supposed to be on Abima. That's correct, right? Hasn't changed at all.
That has not changed. I think Abima comes out of this the biggest winner. Now, if you want to watch the match, they're the sole distributor of it.
But so tell me, so Abima is not, it's not terrestrial television. It's like, I guess the equivalent of cable. Cable, would it be? Or premium?
No, I would describe it like I would describe it like Netflix, kind of, where it's like a free Netflix that has premium version. And so there's nothing in the US I can think like it. So it is a streaming service, but it shows live television. It has a bunch of channels. They show like concerts, fights, sporting events. And then you can also pay for like pay-per-views on the service as well.
Actually, I'm curious to know is
kind of like the Japanese version of Tubi or Pluto TV, right?
No, I don't know what those are, but yes.
Yeah, Chris, those are all free. They don't offer any paid thing. I think it's actually maybe you know what? the UFC Fight Pass could be like a similar thing because well, I mean, like where you pay extra for the premium stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's. I know. I'm
Fight
trying to
Pass
think
is
of like
free.
what's
Fight
an
Pass
apt
costs a monthly
comparison, but there's really nothing else that's like
Yeah.
usually
Plus,
things
I
that
think if you get Fight Pass in Japan, I think it includes the live pay-per-views.
I see. Okay. CG, I'm also curious to know. I know your wife is a big Rizin mark. Tell us, what was her reaction to Rizin losing her TV, losing the TV deal? Was she in tears when she saw that press conference?
No, but whenever you bring up the Yakuza stuff, she's like, "Yep, we don't like talking about the Yakuza stuff." So I don't think she likes. I don't think Japanese people like hearing about Yakuza involvement in anything, and it kind of turns them off to products.
So it's kind of like an out of mind, out of sight, out of mind type thing.
Well, the Rising situation doesn't sound that bad compared to Pride, where people were like literally committing suicide.
No, they were
people were like committing
that
suicide in hotel rooms.
Or
and then new people were showing up at meetings.
That was the big story, was that someone got killed, and that's what led to all the other hit pieces that eventually do the Fuji TV would deal with Pride. That's how, and I thought that was a sabotage job myself. I thought Dana White and them ratted them out because you remember Dana White welched on a bet, and he had known them back in 2003 and 04. Maybe he had seen about some of the Yakuza ties or something. Maybe he's the one that the Frittata dwarfs, as I like to call them, the Fertitta brothers, sent it in since Pride was getting so big and about to encroach on the they were doing Las Vegas shows when this type of story broke here that brought them down.
Oh no, the Las Vegas show actually happened after all the new stuff got released in Japan. Yeah,
but it was right at that time when they were coming into basically the UFC's territory. That's when the story broke, because when they had a Fox Sports West deal and everything, and then all of a sudden this freaking Yakuza story dropped about a guy getting killed, and it's just a snowball, and then just the Fuji TV deal dropped them, and then it just oh god, it's such a terrible. It was such a nightmare, and just.
Sorry, JayWolf, I gotta interrupt. I gotta interrupt your rant again. CJ, so what do you with the match losing its potential, losing the TV, the Fuji TV thing? Do you think that I mean, you just said that it's great that for Vima. Do you think that this hurts the match at all? And like,
yeah, it hurts it.
Because attention.
I would also like just to add the comment. It seems strange that the match is the one being punished, because Sakakibara is literally just like the middle-man between
that's a funny
K1
thing
and Rise.
That's a funny thing, because there was all this talk that they can't do it under Rise. This is all from K1, and K1 was always like anal about it can't be under Rise, and it's got to be under neutral territory. And then there was a whole thing with the Floyd Mayweather, whatever that fucking thing was, and then suddenly in the end,
Floyd Mayweather was just giving encouragement to tension.
Yeah, and then basically in the end, it turns out K1 and both Rise kind of do need Sakakibara and Rizin because of Fuji TV and all that. But in terms of like, none of the fighters are from Rizin.
Well, yeah, and the audio recording, I believe, that they reference in the article is from like March of 2020. So it clearly has nothing to do with the match.
Mm-hmm.
The match, Rizin isn't involved in the match. It is just Sakakibara who acted as a middleman between K1. They did the negotiations and got them to work together. He even offered in his press conference, he offered to step down if it would allow it to proceed on Fuji TV. It's just K1 and
I thought that was interesting. And
they said no, which I'm just like, well, Rising's barely involved, if at all, in this match, and it's getting taken off the air.
I'm really surprised, because my whole thing is that, at least my perception of a lot of Japanese companies, is that when the CEO fucks up, they'll do their whole apology thing. They'll either get fired or retired, and somebody else comes in. It's kind of like, new lease on life. It's kind of like, what is it? When like pro wrestling promotions got exposed for having public Yakuza connections, they would fire whoever's CEO, and then somebody else would come in, or the company would be sold to somebody else. And it's like, oh, okay.
Think of it. I thought when you mentioned pro wrestling promotions, you were mentioning like the fucking steroid trials.
No. I meant for like the whole Yakuza thing in Japan. So like that's happening.
Problems arise. All of a sudden, they find your body without a suicide note hanging in a hotel room, and a new guy from Osaka shows up at the press conference, and it's like, I'm in charge now.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, the whole FMW. Basically, it's the whole FMW thing.
That's actually, yeah, actually, Chris, you're right, and that whole thing. That's also what I was thinking.
We could do a really really far away throwback where a guy pisses on a knife and stabs you, and you die of an infection.
Oh
in
yes,
your hospital several
I can
months
see
later.
Ricky Dozan.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's so.
Drew, I want to answer your question about what you asked. Why you were asking why you thought the match? Why did they pick the match to release this tabloid story during? It's because the match was on target
and also Rizin, because both Rizin and the match are being punished in this.
Yeah,
so
the match was being was looking like it was going to be a huge show on pay-per-view and on TV. So that's why they picked that one to target. So they wanted to sabotage it again. You just like you said, they sat on this story since 2020, and they picked this one, the match, because it was projecting to be a huge event for them on pay-per-view and everything. I mean, I want that freaking extortionist guy, whoever guy had the tape that was trying to extort him for money. I want that guy waterboarded. There's no freaking laws against that in Japan, is there? Find out who sent it in to drop this story right now and try to sabotage the match.
I said before we started, I was like, I'm surprised you're not in Japan, CJ, doing a John Wick thing. Like, the match and Rizin are your dog, and that guy just killed it. So I'm surprised that you have not gone through gone through the entire offices of the Shobukan Post and just cut this guy's thumbs off.
Yeah, well, really like Ronin from Avengers or Hawkeye.
I think the match just suffered from bad timing. I mean,
was it also because
Rizin might have time to recover from this, because, as we'll probably get into later, Fuji TV is having a big board of directors meeting this month, and it looks like they're going to be appointing a new president of Fuji TV. And there's this thing that Yakuza used to do. They probably still do it. What is it called? I wrote it down. Oh yeah, it's called Sokaya. And so back in the 80s, especially, they would blackmail these guys. Yakuza would blackmail board of directors. They would say oh, if you don't do what we want, we'll show up at the board of directors meeting and show all this embarrassing information about you and make you look terrible in front of all the shareholders. And so I don't think the new guy that's going to be in charge wanted any chance of something like that happening at this big board of directors meeting in June. So they cut off anything that might even have a semblance of a Yakuza connection, like a cancer almost. So I think it's just bad timing for the match with this giant. I mean, because if a new president's being appointed, it's a very big deal.
Of course it is. But if you think about it this way, and Andrew, you made reference to this earlier. I mean, I think we all remember, well, at least the three of us who actually live in the United States full time, no disrespect, CJ, we all remember that HBO killed off their boxing coverage after 45 years back in December of 2018, because they basically said, well, they, by way of their young president, basically said that HBO isn't a boxing network anymore. I mean, HBO shouldn't care about sports. I mean, how the fuck can that explain, them doing a fucking profile story on Jake Paul for Real Sports about a few weeks ago? Mm-hmm. How can that explain, boxing still having a driving force and coming back? I think 2 years ago with this whole Triller thing, but really 3 years ago when Jake Paul had his first fight. And, when it comes down to boxing, the best fights were on HBO, but you still had competition from Showtime and ESPN. And now you got the UFC Fight Pass doing events. You got the damn Trillerverse, aka TV, doing events. Yeah, you got the Zone, who basically said they were going to come in and take over and stop pay-per-view, and now they're doing pay-per-views themselves because their product sucks balls. I mean, still, when it comes down to it, boxing, although Paulie Malignaggi said it best, boxing is full of shit. That shit sells. And, when it comes down to Fuji TV, and their opportunity to keep rising around. I really hope they do that and not judge, Sakakibara off this one situation that happened 15 years ago, because if Fuji TV cuts ties with Rizin, you may as well cut ties with Rizin K1 as well, because you're killing off the Japanese combat sports atmosphere by killing off Rizin and their potential for big events.
Well, Chris, Fuji TV said that they're not working with Rise anymore, or at least Sakakibara said that they're not working with Rise anymore. Is that correct, CJ?
I don't think it was that direct of a statement, but it doesn't sound like there's any plans for Rising to be on Fuji TV in the near future.
Yeah, that's why I interpreted. So as far as, unless if they wouldn't have said it, I don't think if they knew that they're still on Fuji TV. That's my interpretation. And actually going into that, CJ, with Rizin, what do you think happens with this whole? I know you did some research on Pride and all that stuff, and when they lost their TV deal, because as we just explained that whole thing, can you tell us what the difference is between now and then when Pride fell?
Well, when Pride lost the Fuji TV deal, the only real other provider they had was Sky Perfect TV, which is like a pay-per-view provider in Japan. And they kind of tried to soldier on. They held the Las Vegas event, and then they had all those rumors about bringing Mike Tyson in for a fight to get a lot of attention. But the difference is just the entire landscape has changed so much. I mean, Rising is making probably decent money with their Live Now and their Unext options through Landmark and Thriller. And Abema Television is doing the pay-per-view for the match. So there are avenues outside of terrestrial TV to make money. Plus, I would say that at the time when Pride fell apart, it was Japan, to an extent more than the US, has they call it a boom culture. It's very trendy. And I think the martial arts match market was extremely oversaturated at that point in time when Pride was there.
It was huge, CJ. They were selling out stadiums still, 60,000 plus. It was huge. And they were breaking into the American market, and it just. I think it was a sabotage job. It was a sabotage job. Nothing will convince me. I have no proof that it was, but nothing will convince me that it was not.
Well, the problem is that from any Japanese promotion to do well, you're going to need Japanese stars that are doing well. And at that point in time, Sakuraba wasn't doing as well as he had before. Because Pride got really popular because Sakuraba beat all the Gracies. That's just the way it is. And Gomi was starting to lose. But Rising still has the Asakura brothers. They have very popular Japanese fighters that can keep it going. Because, it sounds weird to say, but for a Japanese promotion to do well, you need young Japanese fighters doing well to get attention.
Well, actually, CJ, that actually brings a good point. Well, also, what about the necessity for? It used to be that Rizin by proxy was number one because they were the only MMA promotion that had a television deal. Deep doesn't have one. Shuto does not have one. What are the Pancreas does not have one. The other one, they just air on Abema or Sky Perfect or whatever. So I guess Rise is still by proxy number one because they still draw bigger houses.
It's also not every Rising show was on Fuji TV. It was actually only a couple events a year, if I can, just off the top of my head.
Either it was a couple events a year or definitely the New Year's Eve show.
But that's the other thing I want to get into. So now, because it sounds like Fuji TV does that hurt also? Because one thing now is that, getting those stars like Mikuru and Kai and Tenshin on variety shows, talk shows, game shows. Now, because that Fuji TV deal is severed, does that also potentially hurt getting these fighters onto these shows that make them more ubiquitous among the public that don't know MMA?
See, possibly. I think the biggest damage, kind of getting to what you're getting at, I think the biggest damage from Rising not being on Fuji TV is not monetary. I think the biggest damage is that a lot of people, future fighters and fans included originally got into Rising because they were flipping through the channels and saw it. And that's how they discovered it, because there's not that many channels in Japan. It's not like, not a lot of people have cable over here in my experience. So there's like 10 channels. And so they're like, oh, what's this? And so my wife's friends, one of them is a diehard Rising fan. She just got into it, randomly clicking through the channels and saw it and was like, oh, this is awesome. And then you hear all of these fighters, these young fighters now in their early 20s. And it's like, how did you get into MMA? Oh, I was watching TV on New Year's and I saw this and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I've been doing wrestling for 20 years. I would love to transition into this when I'm finished with my wrestling career. So I think the biggest loss is that Fuji TV is like a giant marketing tool for Fuji TV, for Rising in general. I don't think the variety shows matter that much because there's so many variety shows. And I think that's kind of like an era ago. The Asakura brothers have shown you can make your own like YouTube channel and make your own stuff on a Bima and become way more successful that way.
It's actually funny you bring that up. Here, Jay Chris, our young boy here in Taka Nakata, wrote in Japanese on his Twitter. I guess it was a response to this whole thing, was that yeah, he says he wrote that he doesn't think the future is television. He thinks the future is like internet streaming, YouTube, that sort of thing. But he, it's interesting that as a young 20, 24, 23-year-old fighter that he is, that he has that take versus, where, 2007, you lost your TV deal. Then you have to start, the only way that people can see you is by running shows. But then how do people see you if they don't know what you're providing, if there's no way to watch you,
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like Rising almost has to double down now on their YouTube.
Yes.
Because YouTube is the free service they have. I mean, they have almost 1 million subscribers, I think, on their YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and
but
this is the way to get free content out.
Here's the thing, though. What I think they should probably do is that there's this MMA promotion out in Germany that does events via YouTube iPay-per-view. I think it's called the German MMA Championship. They do their events.
That's a very original name.
Yeah, of course. But point of the matter is, they do events out in Germany that are basically through YouTube iPay-per-views, and I think they upload the fights like not close after the event, but most definitely within the week after the event. I think that's what Rizin should. I mean, despite the fact that they're going to probably deal with copyrights, I mean, they probably do something similar to that.
God. Chris, actually, you just brought up something like, that's the one thing I would not want to see Rizin ever go on YouTube, because those entrances are going to be a copyright ID nightmare. And that they're going to be muted if they do that.
What they got to do is they got to keep it on pay-per-view. And then they have to figure out, like, what's the time period? They don't want to hurt their pay-per-view buys. So how many weeks after the event can you put it on and not damage your pay-per-view buy rate? And then just put it up for free.
Well, actually, CJ, I was also going to ask this as well. What do you think do you think Rising can, so you said that, so in Japan, there's NTV, Asahi TV. There's a few other
the basic TV channels.
Yeah, Agora, I don't think is a big channel though, Chris.
There's what? NHK, Fuji TV, TBS,
Asahi.
There's like 10 channels. Yeah.
So do you think, can you ever see Rizin ever maybe going to another channel, or is just this stuff going to follow it around and just like, they're going to be like, no, we don't want to touch you?
I mean, it's kind of weird because I feel like Sakakibara's connections have always been with Fuji TV. I know he got started out with like a different TV network a long time ago, but I think it was Fuji TV is the one it's always been with. And I don't think any of the other networks have really had MMA on it outside of like the boom period when they were like going head to head. So plus I don't think Rising was getting good enough numbers for other networks to be like, yes, now's the time, we can scoop them up kind of thing.
I see. And here's one big question. I'm going to also ask this to you, Jay. But I want to get CJ's thoughts. So whenever there's like these scandals in Japan, like these Yakuza scandals, so many people from themselves distance, employees, all that stuff will distance themselves. And I'm just curious to know, can you ever foresee maybe Rizin ever, or like, I guess some of the bigger name fighters just turning them like themselves cutting off ties, like dare I say like a Mikro or Kai, just because of this. Well, I mean, apart from the Yakuza facts, but also, hey, you're not on Fuji TV anymore. Are you big? Are you,
You're asking if if the fighter who comes from the outsiders is worried about Yakuza connections? No, I don't think he cares.
We actually have an interesting sorry, Jay, I'll get to you in a second.
Right.
We have a comment from just here to read the comments. He said that Ensign, obviously Ensign anyway, had a slight assumption that Sakakibara may have had some enemies, that the journalists were saving that recording for a time like this.
See, sabotage.
Okay,
job.
hold on a second.
I knew it.
Hold on, Jay.
Okay.
Mr. or Mrs. Comments. Did he say that on Twitter? I guess, did he say that, or on his podcast? Because I know he has the podcast with Jim. So can you just tell us where you saw that or heard that? But Jay, I want to get that thought on you as well. Do you see any of the fighters maybe saying, listen, you got Yakuza connections, or hey, you lost the Fuji TV deal, well, I don't want to have anything to do with you. You think any fighters will do that?
Maybe one or two, but no, I don't think so. And I think Fuji TV will be back eventually. I think it's just going to get even bigger with the collaboration events with Bellator at the end of the year. That's probably going to be the New Year's Eve show. Is going to be a huge super event, collaboration event with Bellator, and it's just going to be so much fun. And then this will blow. This is not really. I mean, this they call it a scandal, but it's just so. I mean, it's an secondhand recorded conversation, him talking about somebody who has very loose ties. It's just so not even like, it's just so, I'm so upset at Fuji TV. I'm not even upset at Sakakibara-san, except, listen, Sakakibara-san, please just keep your mouth closed. No more talking about Mr. Y or anything. You got to understand these people are out to get you because your product is so awesome and there's a threat to them. They're worried you're gonna get as big as Pride FC was, and so you heard it. They were sitting on it since 2020. It's just, oh god. So what was the question again, Drew? I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you see any, because because this happened with some promotions like Noah, New Japan. I think it was Noah, where Yakuza connections were revealed publicly. Not that nobody knew about it, but it becomes public, and then for one thing, they lost their audience. They lost their fan base, and then wrestlers were also leaving in stride as well. So I just wonder if the same thing would happen. If you think the same thing could potentially happen to Rizin, where it's just because all this stuff is following Rizin, it's connected to Sakakibara. It's like, for my image, I don't want to be dealing with you.
I hear you, but I sincerely hope not. I mean, I think that. This, like I said, this scandal was so much less of a scandal. Like what happened with Pride, that was a real, somebody ratted them out in Pride, and that was a big scandal for that one. And it just, I could see that one before doing what you were saying about turning fighters and fans off. But this one, it just seems so it was an extortion attempt, and it just seems so just overblown to the point where I sincerely hope the Japanese fans don't give up on it, because the superior rule set is just so much fun.
Actually,
and yes. I love it, and it would be a shame for the mixed martial arts world.
Sure, actually, Yeah.
It's
Jay, I'm gonna be more strict with your long diatribes. I just wanted to let everybody know. So the podcast that he heard that just here to read the comments heard the ensign on was on Lights Out podcast, LYTES. Actually, I want to ask you at CJ. Have you talked to any fans, or have any of your friends or wife's friends or wife, have they said that because this was exposed to Sakakibara, we're just not going to we're not going to watch Rizin, we're not going to attend Rizin shows? Has any of them ever said that, or have you heard that from anybody?
I don't think so. And if I was Rizin, I would almost marketing wise, I know I'm coming from this from like an American mindset, so I may be wrong, but I would almost try to just ignore it completely and just try to move forward like business is normal and not even talk about it.
Yes, great idea, CJ.
So you don't think that Sakakibara has to save face, as the Japanese say? You know, does he have to? What do you think? He shouldn't do the typical Japanese, apology and all that stuff and bow down and I
No,
mean, certainly, I wouldn't
because
want him to do like.
I think that
Go ahead.
history has shown that for some reason, up till now, a big Japanese promotion hasn't really been able to survive without Sakakibara being involved.
So it's funny. I read a lot of the stuff on Twitter and from fans of from all walks of life, people that like Sakakibara, people who hate Sakakibara. I'll say this: he's the one constant in Japanese MMA. He's always there in some way, whether you like him or not.
Because, rant-wise, what Dream was big, but Dream failed to make Japanese new talent. All they did was carry on people from Pride, and people got tired of watching.
It was literally a dream.
Sakuraba get knocked out.
It was literally a dream. I always like to say that Pride, that dream, that was Pride having a dream about what it wanted to be if it had survived.
Well, Dream didn't have the full Pride rule set. That's why they fell. The fans did not like it. Didn't have soccer kicks and stomps. So
there's no young talent. All they had was just people that were developed by Pride.
But they still had the greatest
Rising has
time.
a bunch of young talent they've been working on. So
they still have the greatest tournament of all time, the Super Hulk tournament. Sorry,
Dream had great moments. The Dream Super Hulk tournament was awesome, and that tournament with Eddie Alvarez, their lightweight tournament, was awesome as well. Yeah. But as I said, they need young Japanese stars to keep Japanese fans' interest.
But do you think that these stars that they have been scouting or that are signed to the promotion, do you think that they're going to still want to work with the promotion Sakakibara after all, with this whole thing?
Where are they going to go? I mean, now that they've tasted the Rising life, they can't go back down to a regional level, and the UFC is not signing people like this like they used to. And what are they going to go do? Fight in Road FC for a weekend in front of 2,000 people? Like
200 people more like.
Yeah, exactly. And the women are going to go fight for Invicta FC in front of 120 people in Kansas City? Like, no, I think they're going to stay and fight for Rising in front of 30,000 people.
Excuse me. What about ACA? Excuse me, or
that is true. I heard Khabib has been signing people like crazy, but I don't think he has any interest in women, and B, the Japanese market.
He certainly does not.
Yeah, exactly what you mean, CJ. Why fight for a fucking terrorist in Ramzan Kadyrov for ACA when you can just simply fight for Ego FC and Khabib out in Miami in front of literally nobody?
I want to actually ask you, Jay. Sorry, Chris J. Christian Gary. So if you're Sakakibara, what do you think about what CJ said? Do you just ignore it, or do you feel like that he has? Is this something that like he has to address to kind of like? I mean, he kind of did address it, but kind of just like do something that could like say like, listen, it's all bullshit or whatever, or even admit fault or whatever. That's what even a lot of Japanese CEOs will do that. I think that one of the most famous examples was CJ. Wasn't there some CEO of like Toyota or something when there was like?
I just said all I was thinking was ask how that worked out for the CEO of Nissan.
Oh, Nissan, that was it. Yeah, Nissan.
They smuggled him out of the country in a box and he fled to Lebanon. Like, yeah, that guy was like, I'm not taking the fall for this.
Okay,
getting the hell out of here.
Well, Christian, what do you think Sakakibara should do?
What you're saying, CJ, is that Nobuyuki Sakakibara shouldn't speak up for fear that he might end up taking a hell of a lot of time behind bars.
What's the benefit of talking about it? You bring more attention to it.
That's right.
I would be more concerned with trying to make a card that is so good that the news can't ignore it.
Yes.
And just making the fans reminding the fans why they love Rising, being like, oh, we're going to do a card in the Tokyo Dome. We're going to put Kai, Mikuru, Rena, everyone you love on it, and remind you why you need us.
Brilliant.
I have a question though.
I would have said.
Okay, that's CJ. So Actually, we have a question from Natsu Rosenvelt, and I'll put this to you, CJ. He wants to know how big is a Bima, and could Rizin live off of a Bima?
Abima is quite large. I think they have millions of people that have the streaming service. If you watch, for those who don't know what Abima is, they show K1, they show Pancrase, they show One Championship. They used to show Shuto. I don't know if they pay a lot of money, but they have good production value and they make good YouTube content. And the cool thing about Abima is when you're watching a show, you can see how many people are watching it with you. And so when a One Championship show is going with, if Itsuki is on the show, there's like 200,000 people watching. So, I mean, they get pretty good numbers.
The only thing that sucks about Abima is that some of their things are regionalized, and then other things are not. And you never know until you actually upload, you click on the thing. Like I was able to watch Tension's last Rise show for without an issue. But then with the Imanari Roll Ecstasy, I could not watch until it got uploaded to YouTube.
They're really good with their YouTube. And I love their like extra content they make. So for those that are interested in like fighters like Itsuki Hirata, they're the ones that are making the show where she goes and trains in the US for a couple months. And that's all going to become like TV shows they use for YouTube. So I'm looking forward to that. So they make good content. They also do Rise. Rise is also on Abima.
I also have to be transparent. I have been interviewed on Abima TV. When I was interviewing Ken Hasagawa and Oka Sasaki when they were having their Rizin matches, I indirectly got interviewed about not Rizin for Ken Hasagawa, but his One Championship match. And I indirectly got interviewed by the Abima TV people there who were there to chronicle Ken Hasagawa's training. So
also Mikuru had that show on Abima where he fought the three guys and beat them up.
Oh, didn't he also
get fighters?
Didn't he get sued for that? Wasn't there something with that where he got sued because of that? Because one of them got injured, or he got injured or something?
He's the one that got injured on it, and everyone thought it was funny because he had a fight coming up. No, but yes, I mean, Mikuru's always exploring new options to make money.
So actually, could you think that Abima could that be a regular partner for Rizin? I know they have Sky Perfect. They're not going to lose that. And then they have a few others. And are they still on that other one? What's that one that the Netflix-ish one that Unext? Yeah. Are they still with that, or are they not with that anymore? Or
I don't know. So they had a couple landmark shows on Unext, didn't they?
Yeah, and then
they had Bellator deal with Unext as well.
Oh yeah, that was, and they're also.
I like Unext. That they have. That's how I've been watching the TV show Peacemaker, which I think is awesome. So I've been into Unext recently.
They're also on Line TV, which I have no idea what the fuck that is.
That has to be associated with the Line app, which is Japan's version of WhatsApp. It's better than WhatsApp. WhatsApp sucks. I tried to use it recently.
And they're also on Excite Rizin and then Rizin Live. Their own stream. Well, actually, so what do you think? Do you think, let's just say if Rizin decided to forego any sort of TV deal for the rest of their tenure, do you think they can just survive? Like, obviously they could survive on Live Gate, but could they survive on just their streaming service, presumably Live Now, Live Line Now, and just whatever other
I think they can survive. The difference is they need a way to make superstars. Like speaking like Tenshin is a perfect example. Tenshin was a popular fighter in Rise, but he didn't become a superstar. So he started fighting on New Year's Eve on Fuji TV with Rizin. So they need Fuji TV to reach more people.
Yes.
And by extension, he was also fighting on Fight TV as well.
That's actually a good, you bring up a good point, is that, so then how are these people, that's the one thing that's the, I don't think the Fuji TV connection being severed is at bad, but I do question, how do you get these names? How do these people get seen on a bigger stage, like, on a New Year's Eve show where everybody's tuning in to, because that is the biggest night in Japanese television, if I'm correct, right, CJ?
It is, yes.
How do you get people who are just, changing the channel when Gaki no Tsukai is on commercial, or the the singing at the New Year's Eve, whatever thing is, that's who I'm sure that Rizin, that's how a lot of people, like you said before, that's how people tune into Rizin after just change channel. Like, oh, they're seeing this young guy doing a wizard kick to this Thai guy and knocking him out. And they're like, oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this in
that's also years. I mean, just to go on like a little foot, that's where the freak fights come in. Because the freak fights are when people are turning to the channels and going, what the hell is this? Because I still think the highest rated fight of all time is what? Is it Akebono, Bob Sapp?
Yep.
I mean, it got an insane number. It got like a 40%. They got like a 40 when most rising shows get like a 9. It got like an absolute insane numbers.
Yeah.
That was back in when the K1 and Pride were just doing ridiculous numbers when they set the 91,000 attendance record. Still stands this day. Haters try to bring it down to 71,000, but that was a golden era of time when that was happening.
Yeah. JayWolf, I'm going to ask this. Let's go a bit into the match. So do you think that losing this Fuji TV deal will maybe get them to fast track maybe an international stream because they're going to need a little bit more money without that Fuji TV stream?
Yes, absolutely. Now they will want to have that international revenue. So I have hope is definitely alive that there's going to be an international stream. And I would like them to announce that this week, so it gives us a good 2 weeks to hype it, saying there's an international stream. But, you never know. They might wait till the last minute. Maybe they're scrambling behind the scenes right now trying to make a deal. We don't know what's going on because they had the rug pulled out from under them. It was a clear sabotage job. They were sitting on the store since 2020. So it's just, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm pretty hopeful that what's like CJ was saying that they can do in the interim a Bima deal or something to keep the product on a platform that has millions of viewers instead of just a pay platform. But I think they'll be okay because, I mean, they have 3 different series of events. They have the numbered events, they're triggered cage events, they're landmarks, little short shows with name guys on them. All these are revenue generators. So I think you guys are absolutely right. They'll be able to survive. And, Fuji TV or somebody will be back eventually. All they got to do is keep putting on, like CJ was saying brilliantly, just keep putting on awesome shows for the fans with all the fighters that fans love. And the shows will get so big to where they'll be doing 40,000 fans, again. And then once they're big like that again, the TV networks will not be able to ignore them. And we'll see if they're not going to pick them back up for this New Year's Eve, we'll see what their ratings will be and compare it to how, when it was the Epic Rizin was on there and see what if they have a drop in ratings and they actually miss Rizin, and that means they'll want to bring them back. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll be okay though. We
have a comment from Jamie in the chat. He says that the other thing now is that all these fighters are essentially YouTubers as well. So there is also that. I still think a lot of the YouTube stuff is overblown. There are some who are obviously have Kai, Mikuru, and a bunch of others who have really big channels. And there's others who I go to YouTube channels and there's only 100 views.
No, so as you're saying, there is all of them have YouTube channels. You say that the only YouTube channels that matter are Mikuru, Kai, Kana Asakura, and people like that. Tension, people like that.
I'm surprised you didn't mention that fucking idiot Shibatar.
Oh well,
I'm not even associating him with Rising at the moment. No, but so there are very popular YouTubers.
Yeah.
But naturally, there's for every popular YouTube channel, there's 100 other fighters trying to copy that one fighter. Now, I will say the general impression is Kai going to the US has made his YouTube even more popular because he was the first one to go. Everyone's very interested in that.
Oh yeah.
What about Ren's? Ren also came to the US.
Ren doesn't have a YouTube channel. I think it got taken down or he closed it down.
Didn't he just post a bunch of pictures of him wrestling with dudes naked? I mean, I feel like I saw that on Twitter, but
no, it was more than that.
No, he doesn't go to the US with a Jules round girl and raise a bunch of questions about what he's doing.
But Mikuru was still the best when he went to Hawaii. And I don't think they showed any training footage, but he was there with Hirotaka Nakata. And they're they're just having him do sumo matches with like people on random people on the beach. Here's the other thing I gotta also mention because I keep on forgetting. Please check out Karev_fans Twitter, because he's been like chronicling this whole thing, the press conferences and doing great translations. He's with the Beyond Kickboxing people. I sincerely recommend going to his thing because he's a very knowledgeable and great person when it comes to kickboxing and K1 and all that. We actually have a Code May Day. Welcome back. He wants to know how much could they get for an international stream? How many buyers could they possibly get? This Fuji TV mess is probably distracting them from getting international partners. I'll relay that to you, JayWolf. How much could they get for an international stream, and how many buyers could they potentially get, do you think?
Well, remember there was rumored to be about $40 and $40 USD. I think that'd be fine. I'd pay that in a heartbeat. I remember, look, Pride was on American TV pay-per-view, like Direct TV, and nobody ever releases what those numbers were doing, and they were airing them live and replays all weekend when a Pride would happen. So, and now the Epic Rizin, they were obviously doing good. They were getting buys on Fight TV, and now they're getting buys on Live Now. I mean, and they've been able to expand to have a couple, the Trigger series and the Landmark series. So I'm assuming they're doing okay on I don't know. CJ, didn't you say that they scored a pretty good number for one of their Trigger events or one of their Landmark events? I think it was.
Yes, so that would be the one that Mikuru was on, where they actually had to have like delay it an hour because the servers crashed.
But they got like almost over 50,000 buys or something awesome like that, like 40 to 50,000 buys.
That's in Japan. That's been Japan though. Kobe is asking about international. Like, what do you think?
Was there any release of the numbers of what they got for any of the Fight TV or any of the live? I mean, how's their YouTube numbers?
I like Fight TV, and everyone likes Fight TV, but the fact that they've never gone back to Fight TV makes me think that they must not have been making money, because I know Fight TV handles all the production themselves. They would have like their own commentators, so that just means that they probably weren't paying as much as a streaming service where they just pipe in.
I'll say this: there's a great interview with Frank Trigg, I think, for MMAfighting.com, where he actually talks a lot about it. Yeah, it was actually Fight TV that would be the ones like covering the airfare, covering the all that stuff. That would be on them. And I don't know if it was a Fight TV leaving Rizin or Rizin leaving Fight TV or whatever. But my understanding, listen, so I would always measure the success of a Rizin show. But so Rizin has this thing where if you put your code out, like you have like a code when you sign up, and if people sign up with your,
I basically had to do this before. I know exactly what you're talking about. If you put your code out and somebody basically uses your code, you get extra fight credits for the purchase towards your next event.
And so I would see like there obviously the bigger shows that had more name fires, I would get like 15, 20 people using my code. Who that means they've never had a Fight TV code, or they never had a Fight TV account, so they'd sign up with it and buy the show with my code as well. So I'll just get emails. Oh, so and so user code. Here's 5 extra. Here's $10 discount or whatever credit to your next show, Mr. B. So, and listen, you could guess which ones would be the most popular. With Live Now, like, listen, I could definitely tell you the discourse on is a lot. When they came back and did their Rizin streaming, the whatever thing, there was pretty big discourse among that and the New Year's Eve shows. And then when they had the foreigner fighters coming for just at 35, there was a lot of I saw more discourse that, but generally, and also King CeeLo as well has shown that the amount of just discussion in general has decreased significantly since leaving Fight TV.
Exactly. Like when it comes down to events from Rizin on Fight, it's like the entire, basically it's like a big block party. It was like a big block party that barely everybody who was anybody was watching that event when it came down to the Rizin events on Fight, compared to now when you got the events on Fight. I mean, what the fuck am I trying to say? Now when you have the events on Live now, it's like a small gathering. It's like, who the fuck is this, and why the fuck are you here?
Well, remember how when they lost the Fight TV, or not lost, or got rid of the Fight TV? That was right when the pandemic hit. Remember, and that's why they couldn't fly the audio guys over there. So it sounded like they were in a bathroom stall recording the audio or something.
No, Chris, you
I
have.
think they lost Fight TV way before that.
No. So the last show was the Mikaru versus Solace match, and that was the one that they had Matt Striker for, doing it in the bathroom. That was the one where they announced it like last minute, maybe like 2 or 3 days before that they were going to be on Fight TV.
Just hit.
No. The pandemic had not hit Japan yet.
And had sure? I thought it was in March.
K1
held the last event.
Yes, they were the last true. Right. And K1 got a lot of shit for that, but I was like, I'm on board K1.
Nobody got sick. Nobody
reportedly got sick. Yes. And it was a great show, by the way.
They all understood. They all got corona and just went home and died without telling anybody.
Exactly.
Less K1 get bad press.
I was like out of mind, literally. I just want to also read what Code Mayday's comments. He said that nothing but positives with fighters doing YouTube because they are promoting themselves. That is true. That is true. I'll give you that.
I agree with them 100%.
Yeah.
The one issue is that you can't fake who you are. And a lot of the fighters just essentially, it looks like they just watch Mikuru and Kai videos and try to copy what they're doing.
Yes.
And it's much more successful and interesting, in my opinion, if you just show what you're interested in. The classic example is like a Demetrius Johnson type. Just go on Twitch, you play video games. People that like video games will find you.
I'll say this: like I've seen some of them who have YouTube channels, and they'll just like talk like on a white backdrop in like their family room or something, and they're just talking about like the next Rizin show. And I can't believe that like anybody finds that remotely interesting at all. I don't know if you've seen those from like.
No, because you have to do something. You have to be like yourself and be interesting. What did Kai do? Kai dressed up like a nerd, walked around in the Akihabara, and tried to have guys pick fights with him. And then like Mikuru is like labeled himself as like the fight poet, like all like philosopher kind of guy. That's weird. And then Panchan Rina just takes pictures in her bikini and puts them on there. So you just got to like find your angle and go.
I think the women could have a lot easier because they could be thirst traps kind of in that way, and they can get away with that.
You don't have to be, because you can be like Kana Asakura, who's really just got women fans because they're like, oh, she's just a normal girl that does girl stuff.
Okay. But I'll say one of my favorites is my boy, the bouncer, Seguro Ni. You ever see his TikToks or his stuff they post on Instagram, CJ?
I just assume it's him getting beat up by a 50-year-old man in a Speedo.
No, not true at all. That libelous, slanderous statement is not true at all. But his stuff is kind of like these like 15, 20-second skits of like, I guess, things that he's encountered like as a bouncer.
Is there a video of the bouncer community rejecting him?
I hope not.
Did he say his last fight was him representing the bouncer community?
Yes, it is. And when he comes back, he will still be representing the bouncer community.
Is there a giant poster of Roadhouse in the background of every video he takes?
Just here to read comment says, would be pretty funny and sad if Kai loses to that Korean prospect after the America arc. Actually, I'll say this though. If Kai does
that guy's undefeated though, isn't he? He's undefeated, right?
If he's 4-0 to people that are like a total of like 8-1. I mean, imagine if like that is like Kai's like Achilles heel, because his one loss before like
wasn't it Road Championship, Road FC?
Yep. Imagine it's like to Korean fighters for some reason. I don't know what
number.
Korean fighters are good. They've historically done much better in the UFC than Japanese fighters.
Code Mayday says that Fight TV took the international rights. I also think that Fight TV. I think that Rizin also saw the writing on the wall, and they definitely wanted to do a lot more YouTube stuff, and they wanted to get it up there much faster. And I'm guessing Fight TV is like, listen, if you do that, you're hurting our bottom line. So
I mean, it's true, because Fight TV, you could replay those things forever.
Yes.
So you got to wonder how long they had the rights for.
Code Mayday says, I would rather be on Discord discussing the events than Twitter. Well, you can discuss them on the on our Rizin FF Live, our Rizin Fighting Federation JMMA Love Discord.
That's right. Come join us on Discord. We're in the Rizin Discord chat.
Oh yeah.
You have a link for that.
Oh, I mean, better yet, join both the Rizin FF fans Discord and the Focus Fights Discord. I will probably post a link in the comments of the Twitter thread of this podcast.
And the Beyond Kick Discord as well for the kickboxing fans. This is we're supposed to be talking about the match as well.
Well, and we're gonna go right back to the match.
I have a quick question, Andrew. Do any of you three watch Stardom?
I used to watch it a lot more. Chris?
I watch bits and pieces of it, or especially whenever Shuri Kondo competes.
Because I mean, like last year I was at a Pancrase event and I was talking to Stuart Fulton, who works for them, and he was raving about how they reach their international audience much more effectively than any Japanese MMA promotion does.
You're right.
So don't they have do they have their own streaming service?
They do. They also actually hired a fan who would, on his own time, subtitle like promos and comments from the wrestlers. And he was doing it for free. I assume. And then I think they hired him directly. He used to run the Stardom fan group on Facebook. They just actually same thing happened with Dragon Gate. DG USA fan Jay used to run a website where he would just translate promos, have results. It was entirely devoted to the Dragon Gate, which is a promotion in Kobe, mainly in Kobe. And they hired him as well. Actually, their English outreach is one of the best out of the male promotions, and Stardom obviously the best with the Joshi. Yes.
Don't know why a Japanese MMA promotion has never tried to do that. Like the closest it ever happened was when they would go on Fight Pass. But in this time period, I feel like you just make your own streaming service on your website, charge foreign fans $10 a month, and just get it started.
Well, that's the funny thing. I wonder, because I also wonder how much the Fuji TV deal was hindering Rizin. If it was like if they ever want to do like a streaming thing, do they have to go through Fuji TV and be like, hey, we want to do it this way? Is it okay? Because there definitely is a history with a lot of Japanese companies that are basically ignorant.
But they're putting their fights up on YouTube though, so I don't think Fuji TV would have. I have no idea, but speculating.
Not for the past 3 events, they haven't. They have not uploaded them yet.
Yes,
that makes me think that they're looking for a new provider.
Yeah.
The reason they're not uploading is they're looking for a new streaming partner.
Maybe those are going to be the non-canon shows, like during the Rizin,
like Landmark 1.
Oh no, like first when Rizin first started, when they were like on Russian TV, and you had to find
YouTube.
Yes, you had to go through various other means, cyber fights.
I've wanted to rewatch the Hamasaki Izawa second fight so bad, and I have never been able to see it.
Kobe
saw it in person though, so I got that going for me.
Kobe Day says Mikuru Asakura hasn't translated to international markets, but he has been their biggest star in the promotion's history. What do you think about that, CJ? Do you agree with that? He hasn't really done anything to kind of promote himself to international people anyway. So
of the two, Kai is the one that has shown interest in the international markets. Mikuru has never shown any interest towards it.
I personally don't think Mikuru gives a shit.
No, because he's making a fortune in Japan.
Yeah, he's wearing fur coats in the middle of Asakusa.
So he sells houses. They make houses he designed and sells them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, JayWolf. Any thoughts on that? I think that's basically.
No, the Asakura Action Bros are definitely like see you were saying. Kai is the one because he's talked about the UFC, going to UFC someday, unfortunately. But I mean, the international fans dude, the UFC's next card right here is going to have 2 epic Rizin fighters on it. That's why they're having it in overseas, because I mean they're going to get attention from that. But I think to get back to what you guys were saying about the streaming services, the Live Now streaming service, I know everybody doesn't like it as much as Fight, but it's available on the TV app. Like you can download the Live Now app on your TV, smart TVs.
I can do the same thing with Fight, Jay.
Right, I know. I'm saying it's not that bad of a service where it's not only on the computer. You know what I mean? You can get it on your television So I think they just need to get those international fighters back in there like they're starting to do. I mean, CJ just confirmed that whenever they have the international fighters come on there, they get a bump in attention, you know? So it's just, I can't wait to see how they're going to do for the next Bellator collaboration event. That's rumored to be this New Year's Eve. I mean, that's probably going to be such a huge show. It's going to be so much fun. And then also, CJ, I wanted to ask you, how does the Japanese public, do you think, like, aren't they upset that someone is trying to extort Sakakibara-san and trying to sabotage Rizin and the match with the story from 2020? Does that make the Japanese fans upset at all? I mean,
I don't think so. No, I haven't seen any like negative reaction to that angle of it. No.
So they just don't care that someone's just blatantly trying to extort Sakakibara-san with some weak Yakuza connection that's not even close to like it was for the Pride story. So, I mean, they don't even care that it's an extortion attempt.
I believe the story, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that knows better, but I believe the story is the guy was writing an article, showed the recording to Sakakibara, who then offered to pay to not have it released, and then decided not to pay.
I thought he paid him and he still released it anyway.
Yeah,
he paid and then he decided he didn't want to. See, my theory is he wanted to do that so then he could, because now he has the police involved. I think Sakakibara wanted to get the guy in trouble for trying to blackmail him. So he like created a situation where it looks like blackmail, but that's just my theory. Because Sakakibara is the one that offered the money initially.
Oh, so the guy didn't try to get 40,000 out of him initially. It was Sakakibara-san trying to make it go.
My understanding of it is the guy showed it to Sakakibara to tell him they're releasing an article, and then Sakakibara offered to pay, and then Sakakibara changed his mind and went to the police.
Okay, because I think I was reading, I don't know if it was Korea fans translations of it or not.
But I may be wrong though. I may be wrong.
Okay, yeah, because I thought that the guy had tried to extort him and blackmail him, like it was an actual blackmail attempt for the $40,000, and he went with them with the story, like you were saying, from 2020, saying, "Hey, I got this story. I'm going to release it with you on audio. I'm going to release it unless you pay me $40,000." I mean, for me, that makes me angry at the blackmailer, not at Sakakibara-san. I was hoping that the Japanese fan base would also, be upset about that and not just the, supposed loose Yakuza ties with Mr. Y or whatever.
I'm gonna just read some of the comments that have come in during time. Komei Day says Rizin and Deep would have to team up to match the event output of Stardom. That's probably really true.
Well, that's just the nature of the beast when you have pro wrestling versus MMA.
Rizin, I would have to say Rizin and Deep Jewels together. Let's see. He also said,
I like that one girl though. What's her name? Io Shirai.
Yes, we all
want her. That's a different girl. I like her, but is Kairi Sane the one that's back in Stardom?
Yes, she goes by Kairi now, or just Saint. No, she goes by, I think her first name or her.
She goes by Kairi, which is, I think, her actual first name.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like a true amateur, but I do love her elbow drop.
Oh, her elbows drops great, and she's going to be like in a wheelchair by the time she's 30 because she just lands entirely on her hip, unfortunately.
Yeah, it gives me awesome Macho Man Randy Savage vibes.
Oh, yeah. Kobe Day also says to kick off the new stream partner, the main poll will be those 3 events that weren't uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I see. That's interesting.
Good. That's how they did with Landmark. Remember when they got the Landmark finally deal with Live Now, they released the first one on YouTube as like a little preview to get people to.
No, that was smart. That was smart.
Sorry. I have a question. Do you think do you think Japan is so behind closed doors all the time?
Yes.
Do you think that they knew? Do you think that they knew that this was coming up for a longer time, and that's why nothing's been uploaded, because they've been looking for a new partner for a longer time than they're saying?
Oh, I just answered yes.
When was Sakakibara-san approached by the blackmailer? Like, when did that happen? Was that
they've been talking for a while? He met with him. Mr. Y and Sakakibara got together and met with him, which I thought was weird. I'm like, why did Mr. Y come to the meeting? The guy you're trying to distance yourself from. Why was he involved in the meeting?
Whenever I hear his name, Mr. Y, I'm just always thinking of like the
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, we're like
Yeah.
Mr. Pink, Mr. Whatever's.
I heard Mr. Y is a shitty tipper. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yes. Well, they're gonna say, oh yeah, but actually, in addition to that, CJ, I want to actually branch off that your question into another question we asked before we went on air. Is that, do you think that Fuji TV was kind of looking for a reason to get rid of Rizin? And this was just like, oh no, all this Yakuza stuff. Oh no, well, we can't be seen with you, Rizin. So
Well, that kind of goes with the Fuji TV initially being like, oh yeah, we're still airing the match, and then the rumors are that there's kind of that based off of Sakakibara's comments about how he thought it was fine, Fuji TV did their investigation. They found that there was no Yakuza. They found that there was no Yakuza involvement, but there's a group of important people in Fuji TV apparently who wanted to cancel it, and the rumor is that is kind of led by this guy named Minato, who's going to become the new who it looks like will become the new president of Fuji TV at the end of June, who I think his roots are in variety television, and so I don't think the rumor is he doesn't really care for sports.
Oh, great. Oh, so I obviously that's what Fuji TV needs is more variety TV. It's not like Japan is bereft of any variety TV. I mean, that's literally all Japanese television is variety TV and game shows. That's literally.
Think of it. You say that like it's supposed to be a good thing. It's been like that since the fucking 70s.
I don't say. I say it's like I say it's like a it's kind of like just do some other stuff thing, it's just like put on something else, I
mean, come think of it, why the fuck do you think that we over here in the United States have been so bored of this variety TV crap since the 90s?
Well, also our variety TV is not as interesting as Japanese television, but you can only do so many prank shows and having the actors or celebrities in the bottom, their reaction to the bottom right screen before it's like, oh, this is like every Japanese variety show. And it's like, just here to read the comments, also says there has been much less discussion on Plebit and Sherdog for those events. I think he means the Rizin events. I don't know what Plebit is. Anybody know what that is? Plebit? PLE. Chris, you know what that is?
Hell no.
If Chris hasn't heard of it, I'm not convinced it exists because he quoted Paul Malagiat, the guy that training with Conor McGregor. I mean, Jay Chris is coming in with the obscure reference today, and I love every second of it.
He also says, anyway, how bad would it be for combat sports if Rizin dies? And he continues on, would it take decades this time instead of 10 years for MMA to only just come back in Japan? And I'll start with you, CJ, on those questions.
Well, MMA's shown that it can always limp on in Japan, but I think Rizin is very much responsible for the new talent, because what happens when stuff like this happens is new fighters don't emerge, and then you start watching like 45-year-old Kawajiri fighting 47-year-old Imanari for the 80th time because no young fighters emerge. So I hope Rizin stays around because now we have fighters like Seika Izawa, Saudi Oshima, and you have all these young fighters rising up, which I love.
So just sorry, before we go on to you, Jay, Kobe Day clarifies Plebit is pleb plus Reddit.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes, no, I can also confirm as well. I'm always working on the ride. Sometimes they're not even posted. And actually, I think the last show, one of the shows was like posted the day after it aired. The live discussion thing.
I mean, come to think of it,
live discussion.
Are you talking about the r/MMA subreddit?
Yes.
They're basically up the ass about the UFC, but not caring too much about other promotions.
Yes, exactly. No, exactly. They do care. They do care about LFA and Invicta, and occasionally Bellator. So but Rizin doesn't definitely get as much discussion as it initially did.
That's the interesting tidbit is like, what if Bellator, when they come in December and Rizin co-promote a giant event? I think that'd be great.
Oh, I hope so
That's
too.
Gonna happen. That's what's going to happen, CJ.
Great.
Jay,
that would be great.
Oh,
I think that JayWolf and I are going to do our best to promote it on r/Bellator Nation, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jay, I want to go back to Mr. Comments questions. Anyway, how bad it would be if combat sports if Rizin does die, and would it take decades for MMA to come back?
Look, it would be devastating, okay? Because the Epic Rizin is the only promotion right now with a superior rule set, a real superior rule set, okay? And that's all we got. They're the best. They have one night Grand Prix, Pride style, everything. They got Pride rules with elbows. That's what the superior rule set is. And if they went away, it'd be absolutely devastating. But I mean, look, as long as if they're still here, like say Sakaki Barasan steps down or something, as long as the promotion can still be putting on fights and bringing international athletes, international fighters back into the fray and have them fight on the superior rule set. And we see Pride rules finishes, guys getting stomped and sock kicked out. I mean, that action, you can't get that action anywhere else. And that's some of the best, it's the most exciting MMA action on the planet right now. It's just so much fun. I love it so much. And it would be absolutely terrible if it went away, but I don't think it will go away. I think it's strong enough to survive. And especially after the international fighters start coming back, like what's been happening. Just you wait until that December super event with Bellator that's going to happen. Just you wait. The fun is here, and it's going to keep rolling. They can't stop us. That's my view.
But here's the thing, JayWolf. I mean, you say that there's no other promotion that does Pride rule style fighting like the Rizin.
Like no big stage. There are some other promotions that do it, but no big stage ones and I'm talking the full Pride rules, not like one championship does where they only allow grounded knees. That was Dream's problem.
I get what you're saying, and fuck that damn one championship, but still, I think you forgot that there's a promotion out in Thailand called the Full Metal Dojo that does Pride style fights as well.
Yeah. And in Poland, with our friend Daniel Zubicki, the Wotor fighting in Poland, they have full contact Pride rule stomps, and they even allow headbutts like the original UFC style. So it's pretty cool, but that's like a smaller stage event. And same with the Full Metal Dojo. That's like being held in like little clubs in Thailand, like nightclubs. It's not like in a big old stadium. Like the Epic Rizin is in Saitama Super Arena, selling out, scoring 25,000 plus fans every single time. So it's just a big stage.
Sorry, Jay. I gotta do the Oscar thing. Get you off the stage thing. Jay, Chris, what do you think about comments, questions? If what happens if Rizin does die, and will take more than a decade for MMA to come back to Japan?
What happens if Rizin dies? It basically means the entire really ecosystem of mixed martial arts becomes a boring unified rules blob. It basically means that when it comes down to mixed martial arts, I mean, it would probably go the way of every 90s fad that basically died out. It would probably be just uninteresting, and it wouldn't mean much of anything anymore. But as far as, if Rizin were to die, then you can pretty much say that Japanese combat sports is dead too, because I don't think it'll take years. It might take decades, maybe a long ass time for Japan to get right back in the thick of things as far as non-boxing combat sports. Mm-hmm. Because you're gonna have boxing around forever, but we all know kickboxing is probably not gonna last, especially not here in this fucking country. Damn it, Glory.
And K1 did a good show in LA. The shirt that I got right here is from K1 2012. It's called K1 Rizin in LA, and they sold out an arena here. So I mean, it's a shame that Glory didn't pick up steam here like they should have. But my theory with that was they didn't do 8-man one night Grand Prix like K1 does.
Sorry, Jay. I gotta let Chris just finish his thing.
Oh, go ahead.
But the point of the matter is, we all know boxing is gonna live probably forever. But we all know kickboxing probably isn't. We all know that jiu-jitsu probably might stay in Brazil or in the Americas, specifically in this country. But I do think that if Rizin dies, Japanese MMA dies with it.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this: Rizin's not dying. They're not. I think losing the Fuji TV deal sucks, but this is not the end of them. There's been, and I think if Rizin, see, the thing is that even with when the whole thing with Sakakibara is that, here's the thing: if Sakakibara has to leave, who could definitely take over Rizin? Shingo.
Shingo?
Yeah, Shingo.
Shingo, absolutely.
Yeah. And then that's why I think is that what I'm hoping is that whenever Sakakibara decides to retire or whatever, I think he said he's going to do this for 10 more years, maybe, or something. That's when Shingo comes in and he can become the CEO of I'm about to say Pride. Rizin, while Pride didn't really have that, then it was all Sakakibara. Sorry, Chris?
I just had a terrible image of Shingo.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Shingo Kashiwagi become the president of Rizin should either Nobuyuki Sakakibara or Nobuhiko Takada step down. Because
is he kind of just a figurehead though? Or
I don't think Takada's involved anymore. I think he's just I think his involvement in the production of it is non-existent anymore.
I think he's just kind of a figurehead.
Yeah,
almost.
He used to be involved. I think he's just a commentator now.
I mean, the only thing he really says before the fights begin is "Tetagoye,"
which is awesome. Don't ever take that away. I love every second of it.
CJ, I got to hear what was this funny image you had?
I don't even want to say it anymore. Just what are the odds that we find Sakakibara hung himself in a hotel room and Shingo shows up with some new friends from Osaka and he's like, I'm in charge of Rizin now. It's like that scene from Captain Phillips. I'm the CEO now.
Look at my eyes. Look at my eyes, Sock. I'm the CEO now.
You know what? While we're all basically joking around, this could basically work because we all know how well influenced Shingo is. I mean, shit, CJ, you do a podcast. No, actually, Drake Riggs does a podcast with Shingo Kashiwagi. You do a podcast with Shu Hirata. I think both of those two particular people would be, I think they would benefit Rizin more in the future than, let's say, a few more years of Takada and Sakakibara if either one of them were to give an exit date for them leaving the promotion full time.
I mean, Shingo is clearly being groomed to take over for Sakakibara when he steps down, right?
But don't use that word. That's a very bad word to use now, CJ, in America. So,
I mean it in every possible way. I included all those connotations.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I definitely see Shingo. Listen, if shit really hits the fan, I can see Rizin being still okay. Sakakibara might have to leave. Shingo takes over probably earlier than what is expected, but I don't think this is not the death. This is not the death of Rizin. There's nothing to indicate. It's always funny that I don't usually take internet comments at all. I don't get mad anymore at dumb internet takes because it's dumb internet takes. But whenever I see that from people who I respect, on the MMA Twitter, social media sphere, who say Rizin is currently bankrupt, it's clear they're clearly going to be gone by next month. And I just sometimes just is that what you're hoping? Is that what you're hoping? Or is that or is that what do you actually know that? Because when you said CJ before, behind closed doors, that's the story of every Japanese company. We don't ever know what's really going on except for the 10 people behind the door. It's not like in America where people in America don't shut the fuck up wherever they work. You'll hear the beans spilled on anything as soon as something before it's announced or anything like that. But in Japan, everything is just entirely speculation.
Yeah.
So yeah, whenever I hear this whole thing, I think I've heard Rizin is supposed to go out of business as far back as when it first started.
The biggest legitimate scare was during the pandemic when they literally were doing like those fan drives to raise money.
I get it. No, I get it. That's, I guess, as the kids say, it's not a good look when a big company is saying, hey, want to donate to us. I kind of get it. But I thought it was more like, I wasn't rising in debt. It was more trying to like not get into debt or trying to not lose money. They clearly
I think it was during that time period, because the pandemic, they lost a couple of Fuji TV shows. And I think they were depending on that money.
Yeah.
And I think the good result of that is they freaked out and they're like, we need to make money outside of Fuji TV. And you can kind of relate that time period to them starting to explore like the Trigger series, the Landmark series, and not putting those on Fuji TV.
Yeah.
So I think that might actually end up saving Rising in the long end, is that they evolved and adapted to that situation.
So okay, so I have people who know about stuff that's in New Japan Pro Wrestling, Nihon Pro Wrestling, and they've told me that New Japan is in debt now because because when they couldn't run shows, they were still paying everybody the salaries and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so what do you think happened? They slowly went into the red. And now, so their whole business model is now we're going to run shows almost every day or every week in Kurikan. And then is there a guy in the crowd with a Forever Young baseball hat on who is just randomly started showing up and now they don't have money problems anymore? Not yet. Not yet.
That's my Pride Yakuza reference. There we go. Check that off your bingo cards.
Okay, I'm behind on comments, so let me see what people have been saying. Kome Day said somebody would have to be the next reporter promoter in terms of MMA, Japanese MMA. We were just talking about that with Shingo. Worst case would be Bellator dropping Rizin for Eagle FC due to the Yakuza stuff. I can tell you this. I don't think Bellator gives a fuck. So Scotty Coker's
always had a hard-on for Japan, so I think
I don't even think he even knows what's going on. Yeah. I don't think he'll even know until the next time he meets the Kakibara, and then I don't think he'll even know at that point. The coverage here for it in America is, I only saw one Bloody Elbow article that was about the match losing its TV deal and talking about this whole thing. But other than that, it never made r/MMA, or there was no other major talk about it. So I don't even think it's on.
Still, because nobody really gives a shit about this match here in the States.
Well, no, I think I know, because about the rise in Yakuza stuff. Nobody was as well.
We care about the match here. Yeah, we do.
Kome Day says
outside of us, nobody gives a shit about the match.
Okay, guys, hold on. I gotta read more of the comments. Kome Day says Full Metal Dojo is some of the lowest level stuff, not even 10% of Rizin. I disagree. Exactly. I love seeing two flyweights taking on a heavyweight. I love seeing the Bob slap, whatever the Bob slap or whatever that was.
Basically, you love seeing Bob Sapp beat the shit out of somebody from Boston.
Exactly.
I also love the idea that they're sponsored by a cam girl site.
Exactly. Let's see. Jamie says, sorry to say, lack of soccer kicks were the least of Dream's problems. And then Kome Day goes on to say, Dream couldn't make new Japanese stars. They weren't able to make 100%. Reina, Tenshin, or Kai.
Dude, they didn't have the full Pride rules. I'm telling you guys, that was definitely part of it. Definitely part of it.
The thing has always been, Japanese fans are so fickle, and it doesn't matter if like Fedor or Krokop's doing well. You got to have a Japanese guy doing well.
I think the other thing is that's also the reason why nobody's going to Noah shows, because Noah shows the main star is 60-year-old Great Muda. That's their main star. They have
can't that guy barely walk?
He can walk. He can. Yeah. So here's what I've heard. Is
he bald? Is he bald?
Yes. You're thinking Keiji Muto.
I've seen this guy. He's at Deep and Deep Jewel show. He hobbles in on a cane.
Yes.
And they put him in a chair in the corner.
Yes. I've heard that he only walks to the ring. I shouldn't say walk, hobbles, and then he does his match. He can't even do his moonsault anymore. And he's beaten like everybody, almost everybody in the roster of Noah. That's why nobody goes to Noah shows, because Muto because of that. But when they have like a match between like the two young stars, Shiozaki or Nakajima or one of those guys, suddenly people go to those shows. Muto is not a drawable drawing act. I've been told. Let's see. Komede says there is a reason why Rise and K1 brought in Sakakibara. He's basically unmatched in event production. It would be hard for a matchmaker to take over, but he appears to be the guy in training. There has to be a reason behind
Sakakibara's strength has always been he's the guy that can get the Fuji TV deal.
Yes, and actually, on Drake's podcast, when Drake asked about the match, they said that it's going to be unmatched like quality in terms of like event production as well. So that's what you get when you bring Sakakibara. You get someone who's going to
It's kind of funny because it doesn't even need it. The fight is ridiculously stacked with kickboxers.
But I think we want it to look good on TV. You don't want people. Exactly. You don't want to look like a Kirkin show. If you got the Tokyo Dome,
I'm kind of happy because I'm going to watch it on pay-per-view anyway. Because whenever live fights are on Fuji TV, it's like the slowest paced, just absolute drivel. Mm-hmm. And I was going to watch it on Abima anyway to avoid all of that stuff.
Actually, speaking of Tokyo Dome, something I don't think that has a lot of standing as of now, and I don't think will. There was an article that came up, and you can see the translations from Karev Fan that basically says that so when they booked the Tokyo Dome for the match, Fuji TV is the one who booked it under their name, and now because Fuji TV is not airing anymore, the potential could be lost. Of the Tokyo Dome could not be having the match. CJ, you talked a little bit about it before we went on air. Can you tell us what you think about this article that came out?
Well, I mean, it does look like it might be true that the reservation was made by Fuji TV, but I just don't see it not happening because they've sold all the tickets. I mean, Tokyo Dome would look terrible if they didn't put the event on after selling that many tickets.
Well, actually, so if it's under, could Fuji TV cancel the reservation?
That would seem like incredibly spiteful, and like I don't know if you can. Wouldn't they have to pay a penalty to cancel so last minute?
That's the thing. So I would wonder, like, if there's like a reimbursement fee or there's like some sort of like insurance, like, hey, if we have to cancel a show because of something,
I don't think so, because I think that's why Rizin got in trouble. Is I think Rizin reserved the Saitama Super Arena. In the Corona period, and had to pay for the Super Arena without putting shows on.
Mm-hmm. I see.
That's my theory on why they were getting financially screwed during that first year of the pandemic.
I gotcha. And this article that came out wasn't like Yahoo Japan or even Shubukan Post. It was from, I don't know what type of website it was or what type of publication, but it was, I don't know where they got their sources from, but do you think it has any standing and like potentially?
No, I think it does seem like it does look like the reservation was made by Tokyo Dome. I mean, not made by Fuji TV, but I just don't see it not happening. It's so close to the event. All the tickets are sold. I think it'd be even bigger news if it got canceled than what's going on right now.
Does Japan, like, say if there's like warnings of an earthquake, like on the day of like, I don't know, a baseball game or something, will they reschedule the baseball game?
I've never heard of warnings of an earthquake.
Oh, okay. I'll try and think of I don't know what example I can think of. Let's see. JayWolf.
Yeah.
If they lose, let's just say like we wake up tomorrow, Monday morning, and then you see like that the match is no longer gonna be held at Tokyo Dome. Will you set fire to the world?
I want the blackmailer to commit seppuku right on live TV for pay-per-view. That's what I want to happen.
That's what you'll pay for Fight TV. You'll pay all the money for that.
If they freaking ruin the match for over this little nothing burger, and dude, that'd be just. It better not. It better happen. Look, hope there's still hope. Shingo himself said that they're working on an international broadcast right now. So it's going to happen. They're still going to put on the event. We're going to get an international broadcast, probably going to be around about $30, $40, just like the Epic Rizin events are. I mean, it's going to be, hopefully they'll have the replay available, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to do very well still. It's going to be a big hit. There's so many awesome fights in the card. It's going to be huge for combat sports, huge for kickboxing, and especially kickboxing. And I want to see, who do you think is going to come out on top of it's like a little brand. The way they've matched it up, it's like a awesome, like a brand wars type of thing, like between Rise and K1. Like, who's going to come out on top?
I think it's great. And the
much fun.
The card, like the card matchup list just came out. And here's the thing, they did put it in English, so that's kind of good. And the Rise English account is promoting it as well, so That's good. But losing the Tokyo Dome, if that does happen, man, that's like,
dude, that would be terrible. They would have to postpone it.
Basically, in a way, Andrew, to put it in wrestling terms, it would be like AEW losing out on CM Punk for the Forbidden Door show and having to come up with a fucking tournament just 2 weeks before the Forbidden Door, or having the Forbidden Door show move from the United Center down to like the UIC Pavilion.
I got you. But here's some comments. Jamie says Fuji TV broadcasts were the worst. Is it kind of like CJ? Is it kind of like with the PFL, where like one fight happens and then suddenly they're just like,
you're acting like I've ever watched a PFL event on TV.
Okay.
So
their pacing was terrible. CJ.
I don't live in the US, so I don't watch PFL on TV. No. So what happens is they get like a bunch of like quasi celebrities in the announcing booth, and it's like, oh, this girl was an AKB 48 10 years ago. What do you think about the fights? And she knows nothing about MMA, so she just rambles. And they don't show it like all the fights. They only show like a couple fights over like a multi-hour long broadcast. So it's just like, it's all foreplay, but it's like the worst possible foreplay you could ever imagine. And there's a ton of commercials. And pay-per-view is the way to go.
Come to think of it, CJ, wasn't it the same thing with Gact at Rizin 14 back in 2018?
See, I heard fans liked Gact as a commentator because he actually watches boxing. Because apparently during that commentary, Takada was like saying all sorts of crazy shit, and Gact actually like had seen a Mayweather fight before, so like knew what was happening.
Stuart Fulton actually like said that, like, when we were talking about that, he was like, he was actually like, he gave Gact some props from actually coming in there with some knowledge.
Yeah, because apparently Takada was just saying insane shit, and Gact was like, Mayweather's like one of the best boxers of all time. Have you seen his fights? Like, what are you talking about? So yeah.
Here's some.
I think Gact also has his own problems. He's out of the country. He's like hasn't come back to Japan in a while. I think he's avoiding some scandal.
Oh, okay. For video game fans as well, I think they based one of the characters on Final Fantasy X on Gact, if I remember correctly. I think it was.
For those that like Japanese TV, there is a show every New Year's where they bring a bunch of Japanese celebrities on, and they give them a cheap thing and an expensive thing, like usually food or like music, and they have to decide which is the expensive thing. Gact has never lost in a multi-years of this tournament, to the point where I think it has to be fixed.
Code Mayday says, why would Fuji TV book it if they just had a verbal agreement to air the event with nothing in writing? I saw
Jamie told me that too, that it was a verbal agreement. Like, this is all,
I don't know,
so behind closed doors.
I know it's so behind closed doors. Listen, this is the same country that's still, the fax machine is the number one way to communicate, apparently. Isn't that right, CJ? Like,
it is all the time. My theory is that K1 or Rise are so petty that they didn't want the reservation to be made in either one of their names, and so they had to have someone who wasn't affiliated with either one to make the reservation. This is the neutral ground.
So imagine the whole neutral territory thing is the thing that brings down the match. When if one of them had actually, if it had been Rizin, or I don't know, maybe not Rizin, but K1 or Rise or something else, or I don't know, Dream Factory. It like this whole thing, like half this could have been avoided. I don't know. Plus, Komei Day also says, you have to know Karev is from the K1 versus Pride days, which was a rivalry of fans like Xbox versus PlayStation or WWE versus AEW. He heavily falls on the K1 side of tweets. Yeah, I know that. I understand that. I know he's not a fan.
I live in Japan. I don't know what an Xbox is. I've never seen one.
Hey, the K, what is Komei Day talking about, dude? I remember, dude, the K1 and Pride days, that was a pinnacle golden era time I mean, I don't know.
I think he means
went
fan rivalry. He means fan rivalry because they were separate promotions and they work.
No, they hate each other.
Yeah.
Like half of the Yakuza allegations from back in Pride was that if a Pride fighter was leaving to go fight like for Inoki or fight for K1, that a bunch of Yakuza would show up and be like, "You can't leave. You have to fight for Pride." So
actually, here's another example: is when XPW, if you're XPW and ECW, if you're going back, like Chris, you probably remember that, right? XPW.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh God,
go with like a more modern example, like the NFL and the AFL.
WWE versus AEW is probably actually a better example. But yeah, I know that Krev is not a fan of Rizin. Well, I don't think doesn't not like Rizin, but he's definitely not a fan of Sakakibara. But he
likes the superior rule set of Epic Rizin. He does enjoy that, and a lot of the J Kick guys do enjoy that, and that's why it's brilliant of Sakakibara-san to put some J Kick bouts on the Epic Rizin cards to get the little crossover appeal. I mean, they do enjoy it. Just like, look, I'm an MMA guy, but I was at the K1 in LA. That's where I got this shirt, and I'm a casual kickboxing fan myself, and I love. And dude, during the Pride days, those were some of the best. That was some. I'm telling you guys, it was like a golden era time when it was K1 and Pride doing these freaking massive shows. That's where they set the record, 91,000 fans, and they were doing 60,000 plus follow-ups fans. I mean, it was just. So I don't know. I mean, they went together like peanut butter and jelly, peas and carrots, anything else you can think of that goes together. I thought that I think the J Kick and JMMA just goes together great. So
what is Karov just dreaming of the days of Kid Yamamoto and Genki Sudo fighting on K1 cards?
Oh, he perhaps, yeah.
I mean, those were some great entrances.
Jamie says last minute switch to the Osaka Dome.
I think Jamie is just going to be happy if the event actually happens. To quote,
you know what?
To quote Andrew, this entire fight, and I'll also apply it to the international broadcast, I will believe it when it happens.
That's really what it is. I mean, listen, I never believed that Floyd and Manny Pacquiao was even when it did happen and the fight was already fucked up the minute they entered anyway. But you know what they should do? They should just totally just fuck around and just do it at the Fukuoka Dome. Where nobody from Tokyo or Osaka or the Kanto region will go to under any circumstance. Actually, you know what? Make it in Hokkaido, because you definitely know that nobody's going to go all the way up north in Hokkaido.
Was it in the UFC where Kevin Randleman slipped backstage and knocked himself out and they had to replace him last minute?
I think that was him. Chris, do you happen to remember that?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens. It's like if one of them slips backstage, pulls a Tony Ferguson, I'll go more modern, trips over a cable and rips their knee out.
So I remember, what was it? Stefan Struve had a panic attack. I think it was before the fight it was one of his last fights in UFC. Like literally as he was doing the walk, or walking from his locker room, he just collapsed. Something like that. I mean, not that everybody was. That's
a big boy to collapse.
Yeah, it's not that everybody was looking forward to that fight, but that Tony Ferguson tripping over the cable and tearing his ACL. Definitely was a domino effect for UFC in so many ways. And
there's another one too. Remember the Kimbo Slice, Ken Shamrock, the first one where Ken Shamrock is cut backstage and they bring out Seth Petruzzelli, the Kimbo Killer,
the silverback,
CBS and Runes.
Silverback.
Jamie says Randleman slipped and they had to cancel the Rizzo fight last minute. Pedro Rizzo.
Yeah, I remember. I couldn't remember if that was in Pride or the UFC, but yeah.
Komei Day says the card matchup list is not official. Mark Pickering runs that account, I think. So it might be just a fan account, somebody with a loose connection and promotion. Okay, I thought it was an official.
I would think that the Rise account, the English side of it, I would imagine it's probably run by Stuart Fulton because he's the commentator for them.
I thought so too.
And I know he also does, I think Mark does more pro wrestling stuff.
Yeah. And also
judo. He's all about judo
and pissing off people in our Discord as well.
Yeah.
He's a Sakakibara-san hater.
Mark's a good guy. I don't care. But Mark's a good guy.
No, that's a good guy.
Gotta love Wales. I love
exactly.
Wales,
Yes. Kobe Day says this fight is definitely cursed. Tension catches on fire from the pro pyro during the walkout, pulling off Michael Jackson.
I'm still upset. I know Jamie's going is all excited. I'm still upset. This is like a 3-minute round fight. Like this is going to be.
Yeah, it should be 5 title minute fight.
It's not even the length of a 1 round in Pride.
12 12 rounds, 5 minutes, 12, no, 13, no, 13 or 11. It has to be an odd number because I don't need a fucking draw.
I want shoot boxing judges brought in and extension rounds because I think I saw a shoot boxing fight have 4 extension rounds one time. So that's what I want.
Or, the worst it could be it needs to like be a must win or something like that. None of, I'm glad that I'll say there's one thing. There's a lot of things that one does I don't like, but I love the fact that finally now that their jiu-jitsu matches have winners by the referee or by judges, whoever. I'm finally fucking glad they did that.
Who were those 2 brothers that dominated that last one championship?
Ruotolo brothers. They are 2 of the best. They are legitimately 2. They are the.
Of course, you're saying they're 2 of the best. They're under the age of 21 and they live right near you, Andrew.
Are they 10th Planet guys?
No, they're I don't know. They're Atos. I think they're Atos. So that's in California, I believe. Is that California? It's mostly Brazil,
right? Because they're Brazilian American, but they were born in California and raised in New Jersey.
Yeah,
because they made Gary Tonin look like a little bitch. To be
yeah,
that's great.
Just here to read a comment says, I can't imagine anything being worse of Tenshin Takaru, and it ends up being underwhelming like Mayweather and Pac-Man. And then Jamie says,
at its longest, it's going to be 9 minutes long. It just seems so short.
Jamie says, I was upset at first about the rounds, but watching Takaru try to go 5 rounds would be upsetting. Listen, here's the thing. The problem is that I don't think no matter what rules, no matter what weight, no matter whatever, somebody was going to find something to find fault because it's just one of those things. Mayweather, Pacquiao, people were still complaining about, the way that they're doing drug testing, the weight as well. I think Pacquiao.
Most people were upset about the shoulder injury, weren't
they?
Well,
that was after. That was after. Yeah. That was after the fact. But during, I think the lead up to the fight, I think Pacquiao couldn't weigh in.
Because Pacquiao's afraid of needles, right?
Pacquiao couldn't weigh in at a certain weight or something. There was something with that, if I remember. It's I think no matter what, the match was always going to have some sort of thing that nobody. There had to be some sort of compromise. And
what if Koji was a guest referee?
Oh my god! That would be the biggest insults. That's the biggest slap in the face. The 2 biggest kickboxing stars are having the biggest kickboxing match, one of the biggest in history, and he has to referee. He might, yeah. That would be shit luck. Let's see. Held together by duct tape and plus 6 month plus weight cup. Jamie says. Okay, so let's conclude this with let's try to be more positive or negative, depending on how you want to go.
Positive, always.
CJ, what do you think? Obviously we got the Rizin 36 card announced.
Yeah.
Sario Yoshima does not seem to be retiring yet.
I'm very happy. People were complaining about the card for an Okinawa card. I think it's fun. I'm into it.
What else?
Okinawa is not a giant market. Okinawa.
It's a fishing island. That's what it's a giant fishing island.
Bunch of rich. It's not. So you got to put something down there for those kinds unless you're trying to attract people to go to Okinawa to watch these fights. You got to engineer it for them. And I'm excited for Saudi Oshima versus Miyu Yamamoto.
Jamie meant to say giant weight of 6 month plus weight cut, not cup.
Takeru had to leave his legion of adoring female fans alone to get ready for this, or
Natsu Roosevelt says, I wonder if there's a chance that the match can be remade at a later date if it fails to go through. I think that's bad. No,
I don't think it'll never be remade. If it fails, it falls apart.
I think so. JayWolf, you agree with that? You have to do. You already made a date and set it. It is you can't do it. It's either now or never.
Well, look, if your nightmare scenario comes to fruition about them pulling the Tokyo Dome because of the Fuji TVs, the one that rented it out or whatever, then they must delay it at least and just still run it. Don't just cancel the whole thing. No, you're doing this match one way or the other, even if you have to delay it a little bit. There's no way to do not cancel it no matter what. Go through with it no matter what.
No, what you do is you make it like a landmark show and you charge $150,000 a seat. And you just make it the most exclusive kickboxing event of all time.
Jay Chris, do you think that could be done? Can it be remade for a later date, or it's now or never?
I mean, to be honest, I think that if you're trying to get people from around the world to watch it, you can remake it for a later date. But as far as the bout is concerned, it's most definitely now or never, because you got two of the top young kickboxing stars outside of what's left of glory, outside of that damned one championship in the world. And I think that when it comes down to, those two guys who are in their 20s, it's definitely now or never, because you don't want to have to drag their asses to the ring like 5 years after their prime, like the Mayweather Pacquiao fight happened. That happened over 7 years ago. You don't want to see that happen, because the second it does, you're going to be left disappointed. And that's the last thing that I think kickboxing fans want to be. Hell, that's the last thing combat sports fans want to be, is disappointed.
So going back to as we come to the conclusion of this talk, CJ, Rizin 36 announced looks like a good card so far. It looks like Rizin just seems to be, they seem to just mosey along. Do you think, regardless of this Fuji TV stuff, Yakuza stuff, all the stuff, do you just see Rizin just kind of, moving forward and being like, just doing their thing?
I mean, that's what Pride tried to do, right? Pride tried to just go forward. They went and did the Las Vegas shows. The secret is that Rizin needs to keep doing shows, but they also need to continue to develop young talent that'll keep people's attention. And I think they have a bunch of young fighters right now that they can do that with. So I think they can go on for a while as long as they keep doing that.
Bringing international athletes back too, CJ. Those international events are going to be key, I think.
JayWolf, matches on the horizon. Rizin announced a new card. Do you think that things are looking good, barring certain things that have happened? Do you think that things are looking good for Rizin and the match so far?
Yes, all things considered, I do. I remain ever hopeful that that's great news that Shingo said that he's working on an international broadcast right now. That just fills me with hope that it's going to happen. I think they're going to do very well with that. They're going to do very well with the Abima pay-per-view. It's going to be a huge fight. It's going to be a great night for combat sports fans. And then, the Rizin 36 that was just announced, it looks like an awesome card. We still have a couple more bouts that could be announced. Maybe we'll get a couple international fighters on there, but the international fighters are coming back. It's already started. So I think it's going to be fine regardless. Eventually, time heals all wounds with everything. And it just, like you were saying, just CJ was saying, just ignore it and just let it blow over, because it was really, it's not even close to the same level of scandal as like what happened with Pride. So I think it'll blow over. And then once like I was talking about, those big collaboration events with Bellator, it's going to be so much fun. The Superior Rule Set is the most dynamic and exciting fighting environment known to man. It's just so much fun. Fans love it. We love it. And you can't stop love, and you can't stop the fun of Epic Rizin Superior Rule Set. So it's just going to keep rolling one way or the other. And like you said, Shingo's right there to take over in case worst case scenario. So, look, it will be okay. It will be fine. We're entering a new golden era one way or the other. Let me tell you. You'll see.
Okay. Jay Chris, I guess, Rizin 36 now, match seems to be going on as now. Do you think it's a positive look in the end for the match and Rizin as of now?
I hope it's positive, because even though you didn't really have much of any, you only got like 3 foreign competitors, 4 if you count Miyu, on that Rizin 36 card, and on the match card you got 2 foreign competitors: Sima Kiramian of K1, who fights out of Iran, and obviously our boy Bay Noah, who's originally from Torrance, California, USA, who fights for Rise and Rizin. But I do think that if both of those shows become a success fight-wise, we can definitely see more interest being drawn towards Rizin, especially considering the fact that, like we discussed before we pressed record, they have plans to do, I think, 7 or 8 more shows before the year is up. We're halfway through the year, and we still got a whole hell of a lot of shows for Rizin to talk about, let alone us to talk about for Rizin. So, I mean, would that be a nice little explanation from me? And
Drew, you're muted.
Sorry. I think it's sucks they lost Fuji TV, but this is not the end. This is not the end. There's nothing to indicate that they're near the end or that this is, they haven't if they were canceling shows or the shows were being canceled, I think then that's a different point to bring up. But Okinawa show seems to be going on.
It's not the end. I mean, we can't sugarcoat. It's not good news.
Yes,
but it's not the end. And if they do everything else right, they should be fine.
Yes.
It's like a little speed bump, basically.
And matches going on as of now. God only knows what's going to come out next week. I feel like
international broadcast will come out next week.
Is it like is it the June surprise? Are we gonna get the June surprise? What's gonna happen next? That's the other thing as well. This fight is cursed from the beginning. But let's see if I'm just eager to know, like, will we hear any bad news, or like, can we kind of forget the bad news and just hopefully this thing goes off without any issues?
Yeah, it's not cursed. It's been hopium from the beginning about this fight, and it came to fruition. So it's going to be awesome.
Before we go, CJ, I want to give you an opportunity to plug all the stuff that you're doing for your Sogokaku YouTube channel and your and the stuff you're doing with Shu Harata.
Yeah, so I have a bi-weekly podcast, a Shu, and it's called Let's Talk JMA. I have my website. I haven't been writing that recently because I have a sinus infection. It's been killing me, but we're gonna write some articles, and I have some YouTube videos, not super active, but we interview fighters and we do post-event reactions to like Deep Jewels and Pancrase and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And JayWolf, are you coming back to writing at some point? When we get to see you write again?
I've been super busy, but I would definitely like to write some more for MMA Mania and also on focus fights with Jay Krish, and that'd be awesome. So I definitely would like, if time permits for me, I would definitely like to get back into writing for you guys. And also, I want to shout out to CJ. He also didn't mention he was doing commentary for Pancrase, or what was it, Pancrase or Deep?
I didn't. Stuart Fulton was busy because he commentates for everything, so I covered for him. And Guy and myself commentated Pancrase. It was awesome. I had a great time.
Yes, it was. I just want to make sure that fans knew that, so they could look that up and look forward to doing more commentary in the future. So
I think Drew liked my comment about Kitaoka not being the oldest guy in the cage during the Yuki Kondo fight. So
yeah,
you did a great job, CJ. It was awesome.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So there's just some last quick comments, and Chris, I'll throw it over to you. What was it? Kobe Day says Cozy as ref. Headbutts and groin shots are now legal.
Yes. It's like a Demetrius Johnson fight.
Natsu Rosenfeld says, I really wish that Kai was given a much more proven opponent. Well,
he needs a win.
He needs a win. He definitely needs a win.
Yeah, he'll get. He's already had proven opponents like Cape and all them. So he'll get some more in the future. Don't even worry. Just hold your horses and be patient. The international fighters will be back, and they'll match Cape, Kai, and Makir, all of them up. It's gonna be awesome.
Sorry, Jay, you got to interrupt. Sorry, CJ.
They need time for his hands that are made of fiberglass to heal.
Exactly. Everybody's been breaking their hands lately, and everybody's hands need to heal. Natsu also says it sucks that Eagle FC picked up Cody Gibson and Ray Borg. Even worse, that Jimmy Rivera and now John Dodson are with BKFC. I feel somewhat bad for Naoki in a way as well. I don't think Naoki's fine. Good thing that Ray Borg is not in JMMA because he would lose all of his money because he'd be missing weight all the fucking time. I don't know about Cody Gibson, Rivera, and Dodson. They tried to get Dodson actually to be Kyoji's opponent during the pandemic. They were going to try to bring him over, but it was just logistically a nightmare. That's what I was told. Kome Day says all the kickboxers in the match card live in Japan. Yes, I knew the Iranian gentleman you brought up, Chris, lives in Japan.
Ramian.
Yes, he was in Japan, as well as all the not Rizin. Miyu's the only one who lives there, and so does Tanner Lorenzo because he's
Are you talking about the Okinawa card or the match?
Wait, we talk. Yeah, the match. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. The
I
match.
mean, you're talking about both, obviously. Both Noah and Tanner live in Japan for obvious reasons.
Jamie
for Okinawa, Kyle Aguan does not live in Japan.
Yes. Jamie says that Tenshin will not wait longer for boxing, and Takaru might retire very soon. So another date seems unlikely. Yes, exactly. Plus, imagine if you tell them, "Oh, we have to wait, undetermined amount of time to get another venue." They'll just say, "Fuck it." I would.
They're just waiting for when Jamie leaves Japan, and then they'll do the match. That's when they'll reschedule it.
CJ, you got to hear all this stuff before we go. Kobe Day says CJ needs to be the next Rizin English announcer.
Thank you.
There we go.
Just here to read the comments says, any news on CJ getting a new commentary gig? Anything that you can say, CJ, without getting in trouble?
No, I just know that Stewart's a very busy guy, so any shows he can't do, I'll gladly step in.
Kobe Day says CJ needs to send a demo of himself announcing a pancreas to Rizin.
My one criticism, I mean, it was my first time, but I said guy's name way too many times. I was like, hey guy.
Listen, if you could ever get into Rizin, listen, we know we'll never be Stewart or Mark, or Guy. Listen, hey,
if I want to do Rising's commentary, I feel like I have to go sit in my bathroom and bring a laptop with me and just do a real ode to all the old OGs and come up with some like really weird sexual harassment style references. Channel my inner Joe Warren a lot,
You also have to get names incorrectly all the time. You'll also have to just do the barest of information that you can find in Tapology as well.
I know he wasn't a Rising commentator, but I always thought the funniest name mispronunciation guy was Mike Goldberg because he was married to a Japanese lady for a long time, and he still butchered every Japanese fighter's name like terribly.
Mm-hmm. What was it, like Chael Sonnen level?
It was bad. Oh, what this Chael Sonnen butcher like Yushin Okami's thing?
Because his gimmick on his YouTube channel is that when it's a foreign name, he'll deliberately mispronounce it. Like he pronounces Jiri Prochaska's name different every time he mentions it.
That's hilarious though. That's funny.
What was it?
Virtually identical. And then bring that in.
He always mispronounces Tenshin's name as well when he was doing the whole talk about Tenshin.
I saw a tweet of his today that cracked me up when some TMZ reported that someone broke into Tito Ortiz's house, and Chael Sonnen replied, they went in, saw nothing was there, left $20 in a scratch off.
Now wait a minute. You're talking about people butchering Tenshin Nasukawa's name. Are you talking about Chael Sonnen or Joe Ferraro?
No, Chael Sonnen. I didn't know.
No, but I want to. Back to this, I would love to do commentary again. I would love to do Pancrase. I would love for Deep to also start like an English commentary.
Can you tell your boys of Psyche? Can you tell them hey, listen, there are white people who are interested and black people. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to leave you out.
Oh wow, Texas isn't interested. He just turns off his stream.
Basically, there are people overseas that want commentary.
There are gaijins who are interested in seeing Ring Nakai doing her thing. Listen, I would go ahead.
I mean, they just have to just pay me in random Deep artifacts and I will do it.
They should give you Amanda Lucas's championship or whatever.
Yes, the stormtrooper helmet that the Ring people wore or something.
Yeah. You could just tell Psyche that we have no interest in like the Deep Impact Osaka shows that have like where everybody's from like Y and K Academy taking on Power Estra to Osaka or something like. We don't need that shit at all.
Just get me in there, and I mean they have some English speakers. They have a couple, but put me in there with like Sugiyama or someone. That'd be a lot of fun.
And Kobe Day says, too bad CJ didn't have a pay-per-view code for the Pancreas show so he could get a kickback. So it'd be like, so like when you're doing like a podcast of with Shu Harata, it'd be like, but before we start Shu, we got to talk about the Pancreas show, which you can get 20% off with the code CJ. That's
First off,
CJ.
That streaming site sucked. I ordered the wrong one. I ordered the Japanese commentary one.
No, imagine if Rizin starts using Taiget to show their shows now. That's how
they'd never sell an international. That was absolutely awful.
Oh, or there's another one. There was a that the grappling art and kit use called PTix, PEATIX.
Yeah.
Which is also like awful, but at least they have an app, so it's not that bad. But Taiget is like, you're worried you're gonna buy the wrong. I wasn't so even when like I'm like you, it's so hard to know which one you're buying or if you can even buy it. It's a really like it's not a user. That's how bad it is. Like CJ, you can understand Japanese and like you're trying to go through and you like I can't even make heads or tails of it.
It'll tell you, but I would love it. It's never going to happen. I would love it if just like Rising, Pancrase, and Deep group together and like let's just make our own streaming service. Like make our own version of Fight Pass.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yes. CJ,
what about Shuto?
Brilliant ideas tonight.
What about Shuto? Or Shuto
well,
like
Shuto's kind of hard to deal with, I hear. So
yes,
maybe they wouldn't be into it.
No, like Deep Pancrase. Well, I guess deep jewels as well. You can get in there. I don't know what else. What else?
On the kickboxing promotions, Rising K1.
Deep kick.
Deep kick. Oh yeah, I forgot deep kick. Is this Pound Storm? If they ever do another show?
No, what is that? If you want to go obscure, it's like I need to go up to like get heat. Get like
heat and what's a gladiator? We need some gladiator. Gladiator.
Restart the one that Watanabe Shuto comes from. What was that? Grachan and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Actually, Grachan tried to do some like to the Fight TV thing. I heard it was not successful.
No, but how about the moat fights? Bring back Gar and Jaimu.
Those moat fights were awesome. But I think that depended solely on Omigawa and oh my god, who's the karate Kikuno?
Oh yeah. There's one of the Rising heavyweights was from the Gamma
Shlemenko. No, Shibasai's from there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Kobe Day says Rizin, Deep Jewels, Pancrase, Shootboxing would be my favorite streaming service. Actually, Shootboxing has a very good YouTube channel. They upload all their fights like about a few weeks after.
Their website, they have very good branding, and whoever does like their content creation does a very good job. But speaking of Shootboxing and the match, I think Kaito is going to get murdered on TV.
Oh, how dare you! How dare? Well, he'll be murdered on Beam TV, but not Fuji TV. So
yes.
Kobe Day says that Heat isn't passing a compliance check. I think that's all we need to know about Heat. Jay Krish, you want to take us out?
Yes, sure. I'm pretty sure that CJ and JayWolf have already plugged themselves. So, if you can follow them on Twitter, JayWolf is on Twitter at JayWolf1, right?
Yes, sir. Misspelled, so you know it's me since way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. And CJ, you are on Twitter at CJ_Sogukaku.
Yes.
Exactly. And you can follow Andrew on Twitter at abenja1. You can follow me on Twitter at ChrisGary92. Follow me on Instagram at ChristianGary92. You can check out FocusFights.world. That site is now up. We plan on having a UFC to Rizin alum article up within the next 48 hours after this thing stops recording. But other than that, we hope y'all follow us, the podcast, on Twitter at We Are Rizin Pod. That's WeAreRizinPod, all in one word. I'm trying not to fuck that one up because it's crucial. But still, if we ever get this podcast back to audio form, you can check us out on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast of choice. And also be sure to check out Focus Fights Audio. I plan on getting a new episode up within the next week or so after this thing is done. But still, you can check that out on every form of podcast provider known to man. That's iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, TuneIn Radio. I mean, hell, what am I missing here? Oh, yeah, Spotify, even though that platform is basically the drizzling shits right now because of a certain conspiracy theorist. But still, what I'm saying is you can get Focus Fights audio on all forms of podcast providers. And also, if you want to check out more information about the match, be sure to hit up Kara Fan on Twitter. Be sure to hit up all these great kickboxing fans that really care about this way more than we do. Like
Beyond Kickboxing, the Beyond Kickboxing. Make sure you give them a shout out.
Yeah, Beyond Kickboxing, LJ, 4th Avenue 520 and the Fighter, basically XX Karate, the Karate Pathfinder. Basically, check them out because they are way more qualified than us to talk about this. But other than that, all we just hope for is that the match gets international streaming, and that's all that is to it. Other than that, we thank y'all for being a part of the podcast with us. We hope y'all enjoy us. Well, actually, we're thankful y'all are part of the Japanese kickboxing fan population, and we hope that we give y'all some more JMMA and J Combat Sports insight on the next edition of the We Are Rising podcast when we see y'all again next time. Till then, be safe, drive carefully, take care of each other, and others too, as JayWolf holds up that K1 sign. But hey, whether you're a K1 fan or a Rise fan, I think we all know that when it comes down to this podcast, it's all about 3 simple words that Lenny Hart always likes to say. And if she can say them right now, it'll make my day. 1, 2, 3. And with that,